Number 6.
The Detroit Lions, they finally figured out, we have the best offensive line in football and 2 above-average running backs. Maybe we should run the ball more. And they just punched Arizona, a pretty scrappy team, in the face. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, that's the best running back tandem in the league, the best offensive line in the league. Just run the ball. Just run the ball. Sam Laporta's injury worries me. This is a very solid franchise. Do I trust them situationally like I would trust Kansas City in the big spot? No. No, wouldn't at all. But I think they're a really good team.
Number 5.
Okay, so I want to talk about the Detroit Lions more here. It's been really frustrating because there hasn't been a lot of clips to go off of with them. And obviously, you guys know I am incredibly high on the Detroit Lions. And that game was one of the main games that I definitely watched start to finish. And the Lions, to me, they're a top team in the NFL. Make no mistake about it. So I'm not saying that. But I hold them to a high standard. Okay, so Detroit Lions fans understand what I'm saying. I'm holding them to a higher standard because I expect them to be great. I expect them to do great things. That's why. If I was just thinking they're just a pretty good team or they can make some noise in the playoffs, I would say, yeah, this is great. This is exciting. This is fun. But that's not what the expectations are. Now, granted, it's early in the season. You're still figuring stuff out. You're still shaking off some rust. You're still getting into the flow and the rhythm of the NFL right now. That's undeniable. We could see that with virtually every single team except for the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills. They seem to really be the only 2 teams that seem to have just like zero rust and just rocking and rolling. But there's still certain things. I'll start off with the positives of especially the game against the Cardinals, right? They established a run from the jump, right? And which is he's saying, run the ball. And it is. They established a run from the jump, which I absolutely loved, which then sets up Goff for just an easy passing approach, right? Easy passes. And when you're making things easier for Goff, I talk about this all the time with quarterbacks. When you make when you have a certain level, a quarterback level of talent, like someone Goff, if you make things easier for him, he is in a position then to like essentially be elite. If you make things difficult for Goff, then he might not be elite. He might not be great. But if you make things easy for him, he will look elite. He will look like a literally like top 2, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Now, I don't believe he's as resilient as the true top quarterbacks in the NFL. But when you make things easy for him, you give him time in the pocket, you establish a run game, you give him a good coordinator, and he will just he'll just wreck you, right? We've seen him outduel Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, we've seen it happen. We've seen him happen enough times to know that it's not a fluke, right? So that to me needs to be such a centered around the game plan. It's not like we're going to get behind Goff. It's more of like we're going to support Goff, put him in a position to succeed, and let's go. And you do that through having a dominant run game. It was great. They gave up a touchdown, right, to the Cardinals, and then they immediately marched back down the field to keep the momentum, right? And doing that on the road is huge. That's really, really important. And that's why it's one of the great benefits of having such a dominant run game, right? Dominant run games travel so well, right? They can really go a long way when a game feels like it's potentially getting out of control or the momentum is swinging. Being able to rely on just a hard physical run game as well as a dynamic imaginative run game with lots of movement is also, right, it's just so great. And the defense for the Lions I found really impressive because the Cardinals offense had been really flowing, right? I mean, they've been putting up some big numbers against the Bills, the Rams, and the Lions made the defense, if anything, that was probably the biggest takeaway for me, was the defense just made the Cardinals uncomfortable the whole game. Honestly, they really, really did. They made Kyler uncomfortable. They made things uncomfortable. Nothing really came easy for the Cardinals, and I think that should feel good if you're a Lions fan. You should feel confident about that. But I'm sorry, some of the things that are still kind of driving me a little crazy is going for it on 4th and 1 and some of these plays. Like, you had the momentum, you're up 20-10. Right? Like, just kick. Trust your defense. You're making everything difficult for Kyler Murray. Whether you convert or you don't, it's irrelevant at that point. And that's what Colin was saying about situational coaching. To me personally, that's bad situational coaching. You have the momentum. You're now putting the position. You're giving the Cardinals potentially an opportunity to get back in the game, to regain momentum, to get some excitement, and it's just not worth it. It's just not to me. You give the other team life. Trust that you are the better team, that you are the more dominant team, that you can be able to win this game start to finish without always having to be hyper aggressive. And to be clear, I'm not saying to not be aggressive, but you have to be strategically aggressive. If you're just aggressive all the time, then that makes you out of control. When you're strategically aggressive, then that makes you really intelligent and well coached and well run. So I just want to see more balance about that. And the hook and ladder play was amazing, right? It was awesome. It was beautiful. It was great. It was exciting. It was dynamic. It's what what people love to see. And so I'm like, I know I could just compliment it and Lions fans are like, yeah. And then if I say something bad, they're going to be like, why are you saying something bad about that? And my problem is like, you shouldn't need, if you're going to be a true Super Bowl team, which I believe the Lions can be, you shouldn't need to rely on all of this type of stuff to be able to get a win. On some of this, cute, fancy stuff. Like, those plays are fun and great, and I love them, and I want to see them. I truly do, right? Do it in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs to win the game, right? Like, all that type of stuff. I am for it. Week 3 against the Cardinals, you should just be able to impose your will on them. You really should be able to. That's the way I view it. And I think the Cardinals, I think the Cardinals are this bad team. I think they're a very interesting question mark team for me and have the potential to even be a good to great team. But I just think that if the Lions are truly, without a doubt, a top team in the NFL, because before the season started, a lot of people had them top 4 team, top 2 even, right? One of the top teams. A lot of people were picking them to win the Super Bowl, reach the Super Bowl, and these games you shouldn't need to be going for it on 4th down, relying on trick plays, not obviously like a traditional trick play necessarily, but like you should just be able to play like just regular, good, hard, physical football. And you need to be, and before you say, well, that's their identity, I get it, but your identity needs to be fluid, right? The identity for the Kansas City Chiefs was Mahomes and Kelsey, Mahomes, Kelsey, Mahomes, Kelsey. Then it's like, no, we're going to move it a little bit. We're going to start kicking some field goals. We're going to run the ball a little bit more. It's got to be dynamic. You got to let the game come to you. And that's just my problem with the Lions right now. I said that I need to see them to be winning more convincingly. And again, when you watch the Lions versus the Cardinals, I know I already said that my one takeaway, but arguably the biggest takeaway, truly the umbrella takeaway out of all this is that, yeah, they're the better team, right? And I believe that they were the better team against the Buccaneers, even though they lost. So I've been very forgiving of the Lions, but I just want to see them play a game start to finish where they're clearly the best. They don't have to be hyper aggressive. They don't have to resort to anything fancy, and they just win the game, right? They just run all day. They just are, pick apart in the passing game. The defense shuts them down. Just like I just want to see a true, convincing, confident win. That doesn't make you feel like if this one thing went wrong, then the whole thing could have unfolded. Right? It's too fragile to me, I think, at the end of the day, is what I'm trying to say. And you need to be resilient. If you're going to win the Super Bowl, you need to be resilient. And the truth is the Lions weren't resilient in the NFC Championship game. That's the reality. They weren't resilient enough. They couldn't overcome a fumble. They couldn't overcome a drop pass, a missed field goal. They were unable to overcome that. And you need to be able to. That is what the Kansas City Chiefs have shown. They are not only resilient to their own very small number of mistakes or even drop passes or whatever we want to consider, but also then it puts them in the position to take advantage of the mistakes of the other teams. And so I just think that the Lions are always constantly playing with fire in that regard, and you open yourself up to get burned. And again, I'm saying all of this not to be a Detroit Lions hater, not to just make a negative video. Go watch any of my previous videos. You can see that I've said, just insanely positive things. But I need to see better. If they're going to continue to be considered to be a true, because we could just say they're a top contender in the NFL, right? I could just say they're a top contender in the NFL and they could win a Super Bowl. but that would be more lip service. I want to see it more vividly. I want to believe that they actually can win the Super, that they can actually get to the NFC Championship game and win that game. Not only can they win it, but feel that they are the more deserving team. Because right now, if you have two teams, if it's the Lions versus, and I'm not even going to say a name so people don't freak out, insert X team there, you wouldn't be able to be like, the Lions got this. This is they're to lose. They're going to be in control of this game. It would be, I have no idea. I don't know what the Lions are going to bring. Are they going to be able to convert that fourth down, or are they going to give the other team awesome field position right now? Right? Do they need to rely on like a fake punt or a trick play to get the job done? I don't know what's going on, right? Like, that's my concern right now. And I just want to see them resolve that, quite frankly. I was just expecting more dominant play early on. It's not to say that they can't get there. It's not to say that they won't get there. I just want to see more, right? That's really what it comes down to. I just want to see more. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Colin having the Detroit Lions at number 6 and everything else I guess I just said? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.